So we are back, Ahmed,
Yeah,
and welcome back.
thank you,
to
ma'am.
you. Day one, and now we have a very special guest joining us from San Francisco, Mr. Rishi Chadha, who is Global Head of Gaming at Twitter.
Hi, Richie.
Hey everyone, how are you today? Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure to have you here.
Richie, you are now in San Francisco, and we are in Dubai. And DGC Live is a developers conference. It's all about the game industry. It gathers all the stakeholders from the gaming industry, whether from the region or international participants. And this format now is going to run for 3 days. Every day we'll have different sessions and also a meeting platform. So, and we're very happy to welcome you today. And we'll start with the first question, which is, we see gaming conversion on Twitter on the rise globally. Can you share some insights with us and perhaps explain why gaming is so big on your platform?
Yeah, sure. So we've actually just seen that the gaming conversation has just had massive growth over the past several years. Last year, we had over 1.2 billion gaming-related tweets, which is about a 20% year-over-year increase in the conversation volume. And this year, the conversation volume has grown even more. Year to date, we've seen that it's nearly a 50% year-over-year increase in gaming conversation and nearly a 4% increase in unique authors. So more people talking about video games than ever before. And I think when we're thinking about why this growth is happening, especially this year, there's a few different things that are coming into play. One, you're seeing that people are at home right now and people have been staying at home, so they have a lot more free time and they're playing games. Two, you also have the announcement of really, really major titles, whether it was Animal Crossing or the upcoming Cyberpunk. And then most importantly, I think in addition to everything else, is this is a new console year. So we've got PlayStation 5 coming out, the new Xbox coming out, and I think all of those things have really just come together to create this perfect storm of growth. And when we think about why the gaming audience resonates on the platform, there's really, I think Twitter is really all about the conversation. And what I like to say is no matter what video game it is, where that video game is broadcast, people come to Twitter to talk about it. And it's this place where you can instantaneously connect with your favorite gaming personality or game developer to know more and get real-time updates on things, so that instantaneous feedback and the ability for instant conversation have lent itself incredibly well to Twitter and have lent itself to why the gaming community has resonated with this platform.
I've been using Twitter since the beginning, and I've noticed like during this whole time that in the Middle East there's a lot of gamers tweeting and all of that, as you said, because we are all locked down. I heard that you have insight about how the behavior of the gamers here in the region, what type of tweets and all of that insight. Can you dive in and tell us more about it?
Yeah, sure. So we partnered with Group M to do some research in April of this year to really get a better understanding of, what are people playing, what are they interested in, and why are they playing those games. So, one of the things we've seen is just that most of the people that we were actually, surveying, they're looking for games with challenges or something that keeps them busy, but is not super concentrated on the effort. It's just about a bit of a challenge to keep them engaged. We're also seeing that they're looking to play games that are allowing them to progress through levels and try new different games during this because they have so much free time. And then they're also looking for games that give them the ability to have a freedom of movement. So open world games are really, really popular. I think this is something that we're seeing across the board, not just in the region, but also globally, is also that, arcade adventure games, real-time strategy games, and adventure games that are story-based are also really, really popular as well. And then I think you're thinking about specific genres. We've also seen that more serious players who are playing a little bit more than the casual player. They're seeing the strategy games and racing games and action adventure games are also very popular too.
Nice.
Richie, can you provide a quick synopsis of the typical behavior that gamers in the UAE portray, and how do these compare to global trends based on your experience?
Yeah, I think when it comes to using Twitter for their gaming audience, we're seeing the trends we're seeing is that they're coming to Twitter to look for tips and tricks. They're looking for new game trailers. They're looking to keep up with the latest game releases and also find new reviews of games. We're also looking at, when it comes to the accounts that they follow on Twitter, nearly more than half of them are actually following gaming brands, and less than half are other interested in are users that are interested in gaming. We're also seeing that when it comes to video content and gaming video content, they're looking at game trailers, they're looking at new reviews from gaming influencers and personalities, and then they're also looking at game reviews from the everyday user, so UGC content. And I think that's something that's interesting, is that we see a lot of that similar behavior happening globally too. People come to the platform for game news, game announcements, especially around this time of the year when normally it would be E3 and we'd all be in Los Angeles.
True.
We're actually seeing that people are coming to Twitter now more than ever to get updates on the latest game announcements or game trailers. Like last week when the PlayStation 5 was announced, everybody was coming to Twitter to hear more about the new games that were coming out and seeing all the new trailers too.
I noticed that, like with the announcement of PlayStation 5, all of these games from Spider-Man to like Ratchet and Clank, do the gamers here in the Middle East follow the global trend, or they have their own trend?
I think they follow the same trends. It's very, very much in line. I think one of the things what's an interesting insight is that in the UAE we're seeing that almost 85% of the people we surveyed, they're playing at home, which is pretty similar across the board. And you're seeing one of the trends that I thought was quite interesting was that, and this is probably one that it seemed a little bit more unique to the UAE, was that when it comes to playing video games, 61% of the people that we surveyed actually said, hey, we play alone. And I think that's something that's a little different than the global trends, where if you look at some of the Western markets, that you would see that number be lower, and you'd actually see social playing, so a lot of the multiplayer games would be a little bit more higher and more preferred in certain markets.
We heard, Richie, that you just launched the first Arabic gaming show on Twitter. Can you tell us more about this?
Yes. We just this past Thursday we streamed our first episode of it. It's called, and please forgive my pronunciation here, but Hala Bil Gamers is the name of it. And
Hala Bil Gamers.
basically it's going to be
Hala Bil Gamers.
It's translates to hello gamers, and so what it's about is it's really focusing on the esports scene in the region, talking about key topics and also just general topics around esports in the region. We're first of its kind, and we're really, really excited about everything that it's come out of and everything to come with it. So it's the first and we're partnered with Millennium Arabia on this. It's the first publication that's 100% dedicated to esports in Arabic. And so, I think it's really important to be having broadcasts and shows like this for the region, because I think that what we've seen is, esports is a global topic, but I think that regionally, we're starting to see more improvements in local markets. And so to have more content for the region and to have more content supporting esports in the region is something I'm incredibly excited about.
Following up to another question about our region, we heard that you launched a new campaign. It's all about the gaming wellness in Saudi Arabia. Can you tell us more about this campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So, while everyone's been home locked down this past April, we partnered with about 5 prominent regional gamers, mainly from Saudi Arabia, but also someone from Egypt as well, to really, tackle and bring more awareness to the fact that, yes, we're all at home right now, but it's very important for us to be thinking about not only our mental health, but also our physical health. So we were working with these prominent gamers to actually have use box VR challenges, where they were doing a variety of things from physical challenges, and then tagging in and adding different people across the platform to get people excited. But then from there, after the physical challenges, we actually hosted some panels where we were working with psychiatrists that were able to speak to mental health and talk about ways that we can be focusing on how we can improve our mental health during this time, whether it's using things like making sure you're walking and doing physical exercise, but then also thinking about healthy competition and recognizing how much time you're spending playing games, but also making sure that you're wearing protective eyewear when you're playing games to avoid eye strain and eye fatigue. So overall, it was an incredible campaign with a very, very positive sentiment. And we're seeing a lot of gamers in the region sharing the content, engaging with the content throughout the campaign.
Richie, if you try to tell us which games are trending the most on Twitter in terms of trend, in terms of growth?
Yeah, so if we're looking at the trends this year, I think first and foremost, Animal Crossing has become a very, very popular game. I think what's interesting about Animal Crossing is that, prior to its launch this year, if you look at the past couple of years, two games that were very popular globally were this game called Fate Grand Order, and then also a game that you all know, Fortnite.
Yeah.
And so this year, Animal Crossing took over. It's become the most popular game on the platform. People are talking about it nonstop at a global level, but also in a regional level, too, if you look at the UAE. Another game that's been quite popular globally in recent time, I would say over the past month and a half, has been Valorant. So Valorant's an interesting one. It's the newest game from Riot Games, who made League of Legends. And when they announced their beta, we've already seen a huge uptick in the conversation. And now that the game is available globally, people can start playing it. We've seen the conversation continue to sustain. So I'd say those are the two big games that we've just seen a ton of success with and a ton of growth in recent times.
Talking about all these games, what is the moment like that stood up for Twitter? Like, and when we talk about gaming and moments in 2020, what's that moment?
Yeah. So I'd say there have been two big moments. The first moment, if you look at the gaming conversation, happened the day that Animal Crossing came out. So we'd have the gaming conversation like this, and then the Animal Crossing came out, and then the conversation just shot up. And then after that, the next most recent moment we've seen conversation just spike was around PlayStation 5 reveal last week. It was a very similar spike that we saw, similar to what was happening with Animal Crossing.
And in terms of conversation and gamers talking about games on Twitter, is it the same regionally and globally, these same games?
I think, there's a variety of games we're seeing that are quite similar. So Animal Crossing, PlayerUnknown, PUBG, Grand Theft Auto, Fortnite, those have all been games that you're seeing both in the UAE, but then also globally being talked about. I think there's a few mobile games that pop up at a global level that we don't necessarily see in the UAE. For example, games like Ensemble Stars or Disney Twisted Wonderland or Knives Out. Those are the games that have been popping up globally, and I think that's credited to the Asian markets. But then if you look at the UAE, right, games like Call of Duty continue to stand out. Overwatch stands out. Minecraft. So there's been a lot of similarities there to the UAE to, I would also say, North America. A lot of those games tend to overlap there. When you think about just some of the esports teams that people are talking about, the fandom there, while there's still, I wouldn't say there's still room for more regional esports teams to pop up, we noticed that, teams like FaZe Clan, who have global popularity, that's the most active out team in the region. Another one that's interesting that I thought for the UAE was Astralis. Astralis is incredibly, good Counter-Strike, but they don't necessarily crack the top 10 for the global conversation. So there's interesting overlaps there. Another one is G2 Esports. They're number 2 for UAE, but then also number 2 globally as well.
As a wrap up after all of this talk about what's the trends, the moments, and what type of gamers we have here in the regions, can you tell us what should we expect from Twitter in terms of gaming for this region? Like, what's next for Twitter gaming?
Yeah, so we've got a really exciting year to come. I think like we were talking about earlier, normally we'd be focusing on E3 during this time, but even without the absence of E3, we've still got a lot of exciting things going on coming up. We've got massive esports leagues that are be having their conversations on the platform, whether it's the Call of Duty League or the Overwatch League or Riot's LCS or LEC or even Worlds later in the year. Then we've also got massive gaming events and the general gaming events like Gamescom, Penny Arcade Expo, and then even the Game Awards at the end of the year. So the gaming conversation will continue to be live and well on the platform, and we're going to have a ton of live content and short-form content coming from all of our partners. And we look forward to everyone joining in on the conversation.
That's great news.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty active. It's been a pretty active year, and more to come.
So, Richie, we talked about the trends and all of that. Do you think we're going to have another spike now with EA Play doing their own online conference, Microsoft also doing their own conference as a follow-up for the reveal of the Xbox Series X? Do you think we're going to have another spike?
I think so. I think what we'll see will probably be some of the bigger spikes for the year are going to be definitely around EA Play, definitely around Xbox's announcements with their upcoming console, and then I think Ubisoft has announced their Ubi Forward event in July, so that'll definitely be another big spike too. It's interesting because most of the time in years past, a lot of that conversation spike has been concentrated with E3. So it's been the biggest spike has actually happened around Nintendo's Direct event when they do that during E3 every year. So I'm curious to see if and when Nintendo announces what they plan on doing too, because that'll definitely be another spike this year, as we've seen in years past.
I'm excited to see like what EA will have for us, from FIFA to a new Star Wars game and all of that. And with Xbox, I'm sure that spike will just like maybe match PlayStation, because the hype of the new games on Twitter is crazy. You see it trending, all the games trending at the same time.
Oh, 100%. I also think that we'll see, with Cyberpunk, as CD Projekt Red decides to share more news, that should definitely be another interesting moment where we'll see a huge spike in conversation.
So Richie, we've talked about gamers, conversations on Twitter. Do you also see that, for example, local regional developers are using more Twitter to reach gamers and audiences?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what's interesting about Twitter and the way we like to position ourselves is that, our platform is incredibly powerful for utilization when you're launching or trying to connect with your audiences. So for developers, they're always putting and making sure that they're considering Twitter in their strategy as a way to announce new game titles or announce news and things that are coming with their games. So regardless of the game developer or where they are in the world, they're using Twitter as the place to connect the gaming audience and let them know about what's happening with their games. I think we're seeing that really happen in real time, especially around things like some of the more prominent game developers like Ubisoft or Nintendo, who are coming to the platform and showcasing all these massive announcements. Like just today, we've seen actually a couple days ago, we actually saw that Pokemon Snap was announced, and it was the #1 worldwide trend, and people were talking about it nonstop because it was a massive announcement of a new game coming out too.
And I've noticed that a lot of companies are announcing details only on Twitter. For example, Insomniac Games, they announced today that Ratchet & Clank, like the new character, the female character, will be playable. And in the announcement trailer and all of that, they didn't even reveal that. But on Twitter, it's just like one tweet, you get this this information.
Exactly. You get the information out quickly, and that's, I think, the power of it, is that people are saying we can get our information out quick and directly to the fans and our audience, and then people can be sharing that everywhere. I think the same thing happened around, with the Miles Morales version, the Spider-Man game. They were using Twitter to say it's not an expansion, it's a full standalone game. And I think that just that ability to let people know quickly and get them excited it really speaks to the power of the platform.
And we noticed also PlayStation talking about the customization of PlayStation 5 and all of that. All of these conversations happened after the reveal on Twitter, because I feel like as a platform, it's easier for the devs and easier for the companies to communicate with the users, because it's just about them mentioning exactly what's going to happen and giving them the exact information.
Exactly. And I mean, even Xbox, when they were doing Twitter threads to share information about the new console. And, that's pretty unheard of, because normally you're thinking about your marketing strategy and having to do all these things. It's like, no, just do a tweet thread and you can share all the information, and fans can share and pick and choose the information they want to keep up with.
I want to follow up for one of the questions that we asked earlier. We talked about this region and the new shows. Do you have any other shows coming out? Like, is there a way for content creators in this region to communicate with Twitter Gaming, to try to reach them, to create their own shows? Or Twitter will create their shows and just communicate with the gamers?
Good question. I think there's a couple different ways we're looking at it. One is we want to empower, local audiences, local gaming personalities to be able to build a business on the platform. So we have monetization programs that allow them to do that and focus on distributing their content that they're already making on the platform. So I think in that sense, we want to, hear about what's happening, hear about the content opportunities, and find ways to help support that. And then I think, we're also looking on our end too to see, what are the opportunities or what is the content that's coming out, and is there a way for us to further amplify that or further collaborate? So I think it's a bit of both. And, at the end of the day, we want to continue to look at how we can support the local regions, especially, the MENA region, and see what we can do together.
One of the things that happened yesterday, and I think if it happens, it will be because of Twitter. Like we saw a big campaign to localize Resident Evil 8, and the whole hashtag, the whole thing, the whole campaign started with Twitter. So if anything happens, it will be because of Twitter, because the whole community tweeted and shared their concern about this game not being localized. So we see this that happened with PlayStation 4 for the localization, for Xbox, for all the other consoles, and now we see it again happening again with this new generation. So it's a cycle.
It really is. It really is. If people aren't tweeting about it, did it ever happen?
Yes. Thank you, Richie, for joining us.
Thank you, Richie.
I can't wait to see what Twitter have for this region, with the show, with the campaigns and all of that. I know that Twitter want to do more and more for the gamers here, and I'm sure the gamers here want to hear more from Twitter.
And really,
absolutely.
Good luck for the gaming show as well that you launched. And we'll be looking forward to see more from Twitter in the region.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to coming out there in person soon.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.